Welcome to the Wednesday Livestream. I'm coming to you from Boise, Idaho. I'm Steve Yulberg for Dulcimer Crossing. Today, our topic is going to be practice and the ABCs of managing your repertoire. So, these are questions that my students often struggle with and always let me know about when we are together so that we can work on them together. I'm just going to go make sure that we've got our stream going right. And there we are. Good. Turn down so I don't get a doubles of sound and say good morning. So the first thing I want to share with you is the practice that I use and that I have offered to my students over the years. This is in the Dulcimer Crossing blog. This is how should I practice a 5-finger regimen. What I say is tune up. Oh, and let me put this link into the chat so that you have access to it later. Managing the windows. There we go. 5-finger regimen. And the chat is happening if you don't know. Oops. Go back. There we go. That's the one I want. Copy that. The chat is archived on our Dulcimer Crossing Facebook page. This goes into much more depth. And I'm going to close that right now. Close you. Here we go. Yeah. 5 fingers. Tune up. Every time you pick up your instrument, tune it. Check to make sure that it's in tune. This is the thing that most people like to do the least, but if we do it every time we pick up our instrument, we get better at it, and the time spent doing it is shorter. And when we practice and play, it's much more pleasing if the sounds are nice, the instrument's in harmony with itself. Then warm up. Just something that lets you know you're not mowing the lawn, you're not washing dishes, you're not typing on a keyboard, whatever it is that your hands do most of the time. Let them know we're doing our instrument now. If it's something that requires hammers or sticks or a bow or something like that, you got to do the things that warm that up. If it's fretting or plucking or strumming or something, you've got to do the things that let your fingers just remember this is what we're doing. Then my suggestion, and the thing I've found the most helpful, is the hardest thing. Whatever it is that's kicking your butt, that's the thing you should do first. Why? Because usually what we do is pick up our instrument, we ignore the tuning, we ignore the warm up, we start playing the things we like, and then we start playing a hard thing and we go, oh, look at the time. And we get really good at starting the hard thing and never progressing. Well, we play music, so it needs to have some fun and enjoyment in it. But if we're trying to progress, if we work on the hard thing, it's going to kick us around for a while. So then we need to follow that with something that used to be hard to remember us that we have the skills to do hard things. And when we do hard things, they become less hard. We actually find that there are things that we never could do, that might be the things we've memorized now. So tune up, warm up, hard thing used to be hard thing, memorize. Whatever's memorized can become your warm up. Your warm up should not necessarily require you having your music all set up and everything so you can follow what's written. A warm up is just to let your fingers remember what we're doing. And I have a lot of fingering, I have a lot of hammering exercises that I use for warming up that you probably have these also. This could be what was your favorite song. There's nothing wrong with playing your favorite song first after you tune up, if it's there as your warm up. But make sure that when you're fresh, you're playing the hard thing. And then as you get a little exhausted, you go back to something that used to be hard, and then you memorize something. And that's a way to cycle through your repertoire as you practice. So that's the first thing I suggest, and that I'm going to put that in this chat too, just in case there's someone who's going to be lingering here. How do we practice? I call it the 5-finger regimen. Then, how do we manage our repertoire? This is something that often is presented to me as a question. Um, I can't, how do I keep track of all this music that I'm working on? I'm buried under, I'm buried under all the music that's possible. One of the things that's happened for me in this move is I've been able to get music out of boxes. When we moved from Colorado to California, we moved to a smaller space. In Colorado, I'd been able to create an office out of a third of our basement and build that out and have shelves and have bookshelves that were around me. I still have this one bookshelf here, and you can. I'm going to turn my camera so you can see. I've started to get some of the things out: my hammered dulcimer, my guitar, miscellaneous instrumental. I've got mountain dulcimer things that need to be there. I've got shelves and shelves of music that when we moved to both of the places we lived in California, they were much smaller and there was not room for me to have those things accessible. So most of them stayed in boxes for 7 years. And people would ask a question about a piece of music, and I would say, I have that in a box somewhere. And so I couldn't go reach it. So the first thing is, if you have a lot of resources, it's helpful if they're accessible to you. I really, it's like trying to fly with your wings all bound up like this, and you're going. I can't get a hold of the thing, and it's going to take an hour for me to look for where it is instead of going right there on the second shelf, second box in. So the first thing is making sure that's accessible to you and having some way of getting to it. Now, since we just moved here, I'm also in the process of reorganizing things. And my first idea of where things should go was just out of the boxes that they were in. So now they're out of the boxes and they're on a shelf, but are they where I can find them the best? Are they close at hand? Questions about that remain. So I'm going to be doing some reorganizing about that, and that'll let me get my hands on the things. And remember that I have a lot more resources that I sometimes give myself credit for or that I remember, and that when I get bored, I can always go and open and go through these resources. So that's the other thing. How do I manage my repertoire when I get easily bored? Because I'm always playing the same things. Well, one is to go through and spice it up. So one of the processes that I use in several of, let me see if I have one of those right available here. I could use as a visual aid. There's one. This is the first Portland collection. It's a collection of country dance tunes. This by Susan Songer with Clyde Curley. Country dance music from the Pacific Northwest. And what I started to do was go through when I just started at the beginning, and I would use this as I'm going to test my sight reading skills, test some repertoire skills. And then I have this little system I use. I have stars if I really like something. I have a check mark if I said, well, did that. If there's one, let's look here and see what else I've used. The stars are usually ones that I know or really like, and they get my attention. Or I'll put notes in of how this relates to something else. It reminds me of something else. If I've really worked on something, or if I know an alternate title for something, that's where I'll put that in. I might, like here, the Ethel Highlanders, I did on mandolin, instead of hammer dulcimer. So I'll test things. Let's see. Sometimes I'll write in, when I've been working on something, I'll put in a date so that I can go, oh yeah, I remember when I was working on that one. And it looks like I've gotten myself up through the G's. There, 82105. That's what that one says. Le Grand Chien. So I liked it and I worked on it, and that's I spent some time on it on that particular day. So that is a way of my printed repertoire saying, okay, this is what I've worked on. Looks like I got up into several in the J's and the K's. I didn't do them all. There's a Kansas City reel. Just because I used to live in Kansas City, I want to take a look at that. Julianne Johnson. Oh, that brings up a memory. But we're going to stick with our topic. So managing the repertoire in a written way like that is remembering, oh yeah, so if there's one that's got a star on it, I'm more likely to go back and say, oh, let's do this one. And this is a way. Now the next thing to do, that's a way to just keep my repertoire fresh. But if I'm trying to manage things, I have and I called this the ABCs. I have my A list, my B list, and my C list. And I created this when I started playing out in coffee shops and not open mics so much, but I would refer to it when I was playing in open mics. When I was playing in coffee shops, I would not necessarily have a set list because it wasn't a listening room. People were coming and going. But I needed a way to remember, because when I would be sitting there, just like in a jam session, I would remember no tunes. I I play one and then I'd be blank. And it's almost like when the circle comes around to you in a jam session, it's almost your turn. And you're thinking, I want to do this tune, I want to do this tune. And just before you, the person who's right before you will sometimes pick the tune you wanted to do. And it's like, it's their turn. Ah, that was my tune. Or they didn't pick it, but their tune made me think of something else, and now it's my tune, and I know no tunes. I can remember nothing. Doesn't matter how long you've been playing. This happens. It happens to us constantly. So what I did was make a list of my A list tunes. Those are tunes that anytime I pick up an instrument, I can just play. Those are the ones that are ready to go. Then there would be this other oh, good question, Talon. I'll get to that in just a minute. And welcome here. My B list are all the tunes that I could put on my A list and play if I just spent a little time practicing them. So the A list are the go-tos. People say, how does that instrument sound? Or do you know if it's on this tune, I can play it right now, drop of a hat. B, I could fumble it at the drop of a hat, but with a little attention, I could put it on my A list. C are the tunes that I want to play, or maybe I've begun to look at. And with a little practice, I could get them into the B section where they're almost ready for polish. So this is like tunes to be assembled, or all the raw materials, or tunes that are partway together but they aren't glued up yet, or something like that. B are the ones that just need a little finishing. They need polishing, some sanding, some nice stain, or some varnish, or some wax, or something. A tunes, shiny, ready to go. It is also true, I've noticed, that some tunes fall off the A list to the B list and have to be worked on, or they'll completely fall off the A list and go over to C or below. I would type this up, and then because it was in the computer, I could edit it and move things back and forth, and then print out a copy. Excuse me. And take it to the gig with me, so that when I lost my brain and I couldn't remember a single tune, this was a way to do that. Now, Talon, thank you for asking the question about how to organize electronically. And let me change my camera. I gotta say, I do use my music on a tablet. I use it on an iPad. I don't know anything about Gigbook and about why they haven't updated it so that air turn or other pedals don't turn pages anymore. I'm going to guess, since you're asking the question the way you are, that it did do that at one time, and for some reason it is no longer working, or their upgrade left off a feature. Now there is nothing that can get under your skin more than somebody who creates a feature and then upgrades it, and they take away the feature you like the best. Okay, so here's my tablet. Let's get rid of the tuner because we're not talking about that right now. Here's something in Dropbox. So some one way that people will do things is put it in Dropbox so that they have access to their files like that. This is a PDF. Now, another way that people organize things, and I've got a student who's taught me about this, Karen O'Neill. Fourscore is a wonderful app for this that I use. I am able in my library to organize as I put things in here. I can tag them with like blues. Whoops, let's go back. I've got Celtic, classical. I got things in tunings. I've got who created them. I can do it by genres. I can do it by composers. The thing about organizing your things this way is you have to enter the information. It's not going to be automatic. You have to spend a little time. There are ways to organize with labels, and so like let me look at key of G. There's one thing here, Guitar Joy Interactive. Let's go to under tags. I've got exercises for rhythm camp, parallel hands exercises. And this is a multi-page thing like Talon's talking about. And I do have a pedal that is working for this. It can go backward and forward. And I've been found that tool to be very helpful. I can tag them by genre and say I want to do, let's see. And I haven't used genre very much, have I? And here is the Dulcibro page. So this is a way to organize your library so you can see things. You can cancel looking at that, and you can, let's see, I guess I'm not, oh, that's importing bookmarks. I'm not doing that. And then I can do things by set lists. And I can organize them in different ways that way. What's the newest? What's the oldest? That kind of thing. And that lets me work through just what's open. I have to go back to my library to find other things. I have several things that are in no genre, so they're just here by title. And so once they're in here, then I have to go find, oh, here's somebody. I wonder if this is Neil Walters' Doofus. The pig ankle rag. And that's a way to keep track of what music I have electronically. Now, I have not put everything into the tablet, into the program that's part of the tablet. That is something that takes time, and I haven't taken that time. I've been moving. But that is another tool that can be very useful for us. Okay, it is like Gigbook. And I love that word, James. Verschlimmbessern. To upgrade to something worse. Yep. Yep. To downgrade to something better. I Raise your hand if that has been part of your your experience. Certainly mine. Well, when you raise your hand, you see the 5 finger practice rhythm or regimen as a way of reminding yourself how to play. And then we've talked about the A, B, and C list, keeping that for yourself as a way of focusing on how to move through your tunes and keeping your repertoire alive. Do you have any other ideas that you use? I'm interested in that. And what are the things that keep you going when you're practicing? To keep it interesting for yourself. Now I got the pig ankle rag in my head, which is not a bad tune to have in one's head. Okay, Gigbook is from Deep Dish Designs. And it looks like their website has stopped being updated on by 2015. The Deep Dish Designs website. And that, so that could be um, why there haven't been updates that you find useful or something like that. It's like at the beginning of the pandemic when people wanted to play music together distantly without latency and they were struggling. Jamzam is something that came up um, often, and people were constantly pointing me to them. And it's like, I won Jam Kazam back in 2015. Bing Futch is the one who told me about them, and I got a 100-foot long Ethernet cable, so I could. I did not buy their interface because that they were it was originally a Kickstarter or a GoFundMe. I can't remember, Kickstarter campaign to crowdsource the making of their thing that you would connect your hub or something like that and connect to your Ethernet, and then you could play with people in real time. And then I guess they got their money and they made their thing and they stopped updating, and everything in the website stopped at 2016. And everybody was searching and finding this brand new thing. And it's like, it's not brand new. It hasn't been updated for 4 years. Um, but because there was a push for it, the people who created it started working on that again at the same time that several other different people, Jamulus and Soundjack and Jack Trip and Sonobus, were all things that were happening at the same that are helping to move that whole playing without latency or with low latency together well. So, Talon, you're saying that the iPad and the pedal still updates. Yes. So the hardware and how it interfaces with your machine do update, but the software in which those triggers work may have done something that broke the connection. I know that in Fourscore that is being updated, and that is so I haven't had that problem. But it looks like gig list might have been something that was an earlier thing, and the other thing came later, and that's that. And so you're an early adopter, and then we get stuck sometimes. So tell them one of the things your group does is put a list together of what you're going to be working with, so you don't spend all your time looking for. Yeah, that's planning ahead is really useful. And Jim, you're saying keep on paper a list of songs, or keep in mind that you of the several genres you want to look with. Don't get stuck. And then learn new things from different genres over several weeks. Yeah, it is easy for us to get paint ourselves into a corner sometimes because of what we like or what we think we dislike. I try to keep open the possibility that I'm going to like something that I didn't know I was going to like. So I try to keep that open. and and try those things. Last week I demonstrated the B flat hornpipe that my buddy wrote, and which reminds me now I do have to set up my hammered dulcimer. I'm gonna soon, I hope. We won't have this window behind me because I consulted with my theater acting son, and we talked about how this room could be configured so that I wouldn't be silhouetted and backlit by the heavenly light, and have a little more space. So that will be changing. And so as some things came down, I was wondering whether or not I needed to put them back up, but it looks like I'm going to have to put them back up because I'm going to be meeting with my buddy Vi to do some practice on Sonobus today, um, doing some low latency experiences of music playing. So I'll be able to report on that. I've had some good experiences with Erin May Lewis. She and I did some work last week, and I have a student who's been doing this as her focus. And yesterday we had a really good opportunity to get very close to each other in time, so that the neither one of us was really hearing a time lag as we were playing. There might have been a little one, but we weren't really hearing it. So that was huge because your ear can hear it. It does change the way we play together, but no, I haven't even heard of people working on that. There is inherent latency in the system because there's a great workshop that I was a part of it that described it. Uh, I'm going to forget his name. Jacques. Is that it? Francois. But before something can go out, it has to be encoded and given the packet on the front and the back of where it came from and where it's going. That's a piece of what introduces latency, because you have to put your message in an envelope, and the envelope has to go through the system. When it gets to the other side, the envelope has to be opened so that you can read the message. And that all takes time. That introduces latency. In addition to the distance that things have to travel, introduces more latency. And you may be 30 miles away as the crow flies from somebody, but the internet actually takes you, like it might take me from Boise to Seattle in order to get to San Francisco over to Denver or something like that. And it's not a straight line. And so the signal has to travel all that distance. That introduces latency. Then if you add the latency between you and your computer, that's a whole nother level. So I have not heard, but that'd be one of those things to look at. And maybe I should just spend a little time on that whole that whole latency system. Um, but I'm just wanting to report that I've been having some positive experiences with this, and I'm encouraged. But that's for another time. This has been a good morning with you. Thank you for your questions and your sharing your experience. I continue to be interested in what you're working on and learning. And if you want to write to me about that or have suggestions for live stream topics that would be interesting to you, you can always write to me at belsmercrossing.com. And let's see. Oh, I wanted to let you know that the Manuka Dulcimer Festival, which is going to be happening, Manuka is usually about in April. It's going to be the same time it usually is, which is not a month away, just 3 weeks away. Is Manuka is a wonderful retreat center in northern, little bit central Oregon, along the Columbia River Gorge. Um, the registration for that opens today, and I'm looking and embarrassed to see that I did not send in my workshop descriptions, and so my workshops are these are all. This is a Mountain Dulcimer Festival, and so I need to get those in post haste. So I better sign off so I can get my workshops turned in. Okay, but thank you very much. I will look forward to seeing you again next week. But for now, have a great week.